All right, so now that we've looked at if-else conditionals, remember we talked about these in our last video, we're actually going to use that to make the grades program that we created in the last lesson just a little bit better. So what I'd like you to do is open up Python. I'm going to do a file, new file, and file, save as. And we're actually going to go back into where we save all of our files together. So we have our computer science projects, unit 3, our in-class projects, and what I'd like you to do is create a new file with a very similar name. So you want to name this one Unit 3, Lesson 3, and then we're going to name it if-else conditional, because we're going to use that if-else conditional to make our grades program better. So here we press save, we can start here, and we're going to start with just comments. We're going to say this is still a grades program, but it's better. And this is going to use an if-else conditional. So again, it's going to be the same thing. If the student enters in a passing grade, it will have a congrats message. And if the student enters in a failing grade, it will print that sad message again. So we're going to start with that welcome statement, just like we did in the previous one. So we'll say print, welcome to the grade program. Please enter in grade to learn whether or not you passed the course. That's our little welcome message. And then just like before, we need to start by getting the score from the user. So we have our grade variable, and we're going to use eval and input together. Please enter in your grade. Put a little space and a colon in there, and then remember your 2 parentheses at the end. So the beginning part of this program is pretty much the same. Now it's at this point where it's going to be a little bit different because we're going to use that if-else conditional instead. So we're going to say, if this happens, do this. Otherwise, do this all of the time. So here it's going to say, if grade, oh my goodness, is more than 60, print congrats message, otherwise print sad message. So that's what this conditional is going to do. So notice how it's if, and we'll say if my grade is greater than or equal to 60, we still include our colon, and we'll print our congrats message. So congrats, you passed course. So even this part is pretty much the same as what we did before. But now where this differs is here when we backspace back and we end this conditional, we're actually going to technically continue the conditional block. So we're going to pair this if with its friend else. And notice here that we're not putting any sort of Boolean statement here because it's pairing with the if. So it's saying if our grade is this, print this statement. Otherwise, you're going to print a sad message. So unfortunately, you did not pass the course. And they're sad. So notice here how this looks different, and this is really better programming practice to use an if-else conditional together rather than multiple ifs. It's better programming practice because it links these 2 chunks of code together and says this pairs with this, and they're looking at the same situation. So if this is true, do this. If it's false, you're going to run this chunk of code instead. And then the last part here, we're just going to output our closing message. Print to the user, thanks for using. So we're now done and we want to save it and run it. So if we run, we're going to test some of those same values. So let's enter in something like 78. Good, we get our congrats message. And then if we try and run it again, we enter in something like 58, we get our sad message. So notice the code is slightly different, but it works in the same way as our previous program. It's just a better way of representing a conditional when you have an either or situation in front of you.